And so strategy is ultimately about positioning yourself for long-term advantage. Let me start my presentation and say that I'm speaking today along the theme, but I've chosen the topic, the wooden horse of Troy. The wooden horse of Troy. The wooden horse of Troy. Whether you are an individual, a company, a not-for-profit, or a nation, there are 4 important questions every good strategy must address. The first one is your market or your battleground. Let's say battleground. So your market or battleground is simply, where do you want to compete? Which problem do you want to solve? What is your area of interest? Now, this question, or the answer to this question, is the cornerstone or the anchor bolt around which your whole strategy revolves. Several other important decisions will emanate from the answer to this question. Avoid trying to be all things to all people, because you will dissipate your energies and become totally ineffective. Your strategy battleground defines what you will do and what you will not do in life. Let's all say battleground. Let's say market. The second imperative for all of us is your unique value. Your unique value. What makes you special? How do you position yourself in comparison to the competition? What core skills or competencies do you have, or capabilities, that make you superior? Is it writing skills, research, speed, software, expertise, networks, technology? Or do you have a base of loyal clients that keep coming back to you because of what you offer? What is your unique value? I look at my life and I say my unique or my battleground personally is developing people. And so I deploy knowledge-based products and services to provide hope and direction and inspiration to my target audience. My unique value proposition is the ability to communicate simply and clearly, and to observe and understand patterns of human behavior. That brings you to the third strategic imperative. Everybody must ask yourself a question: what resources do I need? Because if you want to get somewhere, if you want to achieve an objective, you will need resources. Determine what you need to achieve your goals. It might be financial, human, technological. It may be a connection, a relationship. It may be logistics. It may even be intellectual, something you need to know to become a better person. Clearly define what you need. The fourth imperative is sustained advantage. And that is important because imagine that you shine today and then you flop tomorrow. Imagine that your company wins Ghana Club 100 or #1 in your field this year, and then next year you are just struggling to hold on. Or you win the best worker award for 1 month, and next month you are suspended for misbehavior or fraud. May it not be so for you. So the fourth imperative is about not just having an advantage, but sustaining that advantage. How do you remain at the cutting edge or the top of the competitive tree? How do you lock down that promotion? How do you ensure that your success is not short-lived? And that requires constantly reviewing your strategy and updating your knowledge and skills. So, What happens when you are very good? You know you are good. But the one objective that you have set for yourself, you are not achieving it. And you try and try and try, but you fail to get the result you desire. That is the crux of the story. That is the lead story in my presentation today. I want to talk about the Trojan War. Several thousands of years ago. I love Greek mythology. One of my favorite readings of all is the story of the Trojan War as captured in the writings of the poet Homer. Books like the Iliad and the Odyssey. Actually, these books were given to me by my grandfather. So I read them with a lot of zest. And the Trojan War revolved around Queen Helen, who was said to be the most beautiful woman in the world. They actually believed that Helen was the daughter of Zeus, the king of the Greek gods. So when it got to time for Helen to marry, being the most beautiful woman in the world, several kings and princes lined up and came from across the world to seek her hand, bringing gifts with them. Eventually, it was agreed that there would be a competition between her suitors for a hand in marriage. Menelaus, who later became King Menelaus of Sparta, emerged victorious. And so they got married and were supposed to live happily ever after, until one handsome Trojan prince called Paris came around, and I don't know what he told Helen. But he disappeared with Helen, and they went off to Troy. And so King Menelaus woke up one day and did not have a queen. But interestingly, all the men who came to seek Helen's hand in marriage signed a contract, an oath, that because she was beautiful, somebody will by all means try to abduct her. So, whoever wins, if somebody abducts her, all those kings and princes will come together and go to war against that person. So when Helen was truthfully abducted, all the kings of Greece and all those who had sought Helen's hand in marriage were obliged. So they gathered or marshaled a fleet of 1,000 ships and the largest army in the world, featuring people like King Agamemnon, Odysseus, and the great Achilles. They set out to recover Helen of Troy. That was the only objective. So, strategy number one, they sent 2 representatives. Please, go and have dialogue with them. Explain that this woman is not just our queen, but she's the most beautiful woman in the world. So please surrender her peacefully and everything will be fine. Of course, you can guess the answer. The dialogue failed. Strategy number one did not work. It left them with no option but to go to strategy number 2, which was all-out war. So 1,000 ships and a huge army went against the Trojans. But something happened. Troy had very well fortified walls and an equally strong army, including Paris himself, Hector, and all their soldiers. And so for 10 years, the Greeks fought against the Trojans and could not bring down Troy. Several people died in the process. The truth is, my friends, strategy number 2 did not work after 10 years. How long does it take to fight for a woman? So, at the end of the 10th year, it was decided that something superior must be deployed in terms of strategy. So Odysseus brought a very intelligent, unprecedented solution. And he described it to the generals and literally got the Greeks to build a horse that was wooden and that was hollow. And the horse was a giant horse that could conceal 30 to 40 elite soldiers in the horse. and 2 of them in the head acting as eyes. And so they built the horse in 3 days. And on the 3rd night, put the crack soldiers in the horse, burnt their tents on the beaches of Troy, and took off with their ships. Of course, the next morning, when the Trojans woke up, it was a celebration. Now you are tired. After 10 years of trying, you have given up. So the Trojans came out rejoicing and dancing. And then, guess what? The horse had wheels. So they pushed the horse into the city of Troy. And the Greeks did something even more interesting. The emblem of Troy was a horse. So it was an animal they loved and revered. So they chose right. If they had done the wooden cow of Troy, they would have left it outside. So they pushed the horse into the city. But to make it even more interesting, they were also mindful of the cultural perceptions of the Trojans. And so they wrote a note on the horse that said, as the Greeks depart, they leave this gift dedicated to the goddess Athena. So the Trojans push the horse right to the entrance of the temple of Athena in the middle of the city of Troy. They go to bed drunk and excited, and in the night, the soldiers inside the horse open the window or the door, come out, first open the gates to the city and light a fire. The moment the ships that were waiting on the sea see the fire, they turn around and come back. Apparently, they were not far away. They came back 1,000 ships and set fire to the city of Troy, destroyed the city, but most importantly, what was the objective? Pardon me? Helen! How can this story end without Helen? They got back Helen at great cost, but they got her back. What are the lessons from Troy as we gather in this global convocation to talk about strategy, technology, and wealth creation or advantage? What are the lessons for us? Lesson number 1. Strategy is contextual. Let's all say contextual. Strategy is contextual and dynamic. That simply means that strategy varies from person to person and from situation to situation. It is scary that what works in a particular situation can fail abysmally if repeated in a similar situation but with slightly different variables. It is clear that throughout history, these Greeks had achieved success in several wars using first dialogue and then all-out war. So, what had worked before could be assumed to be effective. But it's amazing that after 10 years of trying brute force, eventually the solution came from something in the mind that was designed and executed in 3 days. May somebody who has struggled with a particular issue for 10 years get a new understanding, a brain wave, a new way of reasoning that will unlock in 3 days what you have struggled to unlock for 10 years. Strategy is dynamic. What worked yesterday cannot work today. Don't assume that because something was done in a particular way last year, you are definite that it will work in the same way this year. If you've been unemployed, searching for business financing, trying to close a deal, launch a product, build a partnership or a not-for-profit, and you have done it for years without success, stop blaming others and re-examine your approach. You may be working hard, but if the strategy is not right, re-examine it. In some cases, the same situation could arise twice and require a different approach. There's a biblical story about David in 2 Samuel chapter 5, when the Philistines deployed themselves against him in the valley of Rephaim. Interestingly, in the first one, he went to God and prayed, and God said, go, frontal attack, like the Greeks. So he went frontal attack and he won. After breaking through and defeating them like water, Bible says, soon after, the same opponents, the Philistines, the same valley, Rephaim, the same army, they came there. Each of us would have said, Afa. And gone with the same brutal frontal strategy. But even if you think you are sure, pause and ask a few questions. Is the opponent wiser now than before? Have they learned from their mistake? Have they marshaled more forces? Is the market different? Is the landscape different? Even if it is one day, you may never tell. So David did his own soul searching and went to his own strategy partner, in this case God, and asked, should I go? God said, no, don't go. Hold on a second. Conventional thinking says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But God says, don't go. In 2 Samuel 5:23, God says, you shall not go up. Circle around behind them and come upon them in front of the mulberry trees. And it shall be that when you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the trees, then you shall advance quickly, for the Lord will go before you to strike the camp of the Philistines. And David did so as the Lord commanded him and drove the Philistines back. The lesson is simple. Two situations that are so similar. In one, the strategy was frontal attack. Second one, concealment and encirclement. I remember a friend of mine came out with a wonderful product when we finished university. Very good confectionery product. But there were principalities in that industry. And brilliant young entrepreneur, he came out and he started giving interviews. We will take them on. The principalities and powers dealt with it very simply. They called all the major vendors and said, we have put our fridge in your place. Thou shalt not embrace any competitive product in your shop if you want us to keep supplying you. So all of a sudden, the same place that you went and they say, oh, the product is very nice. Anytime we put it on the shelf, within a few hours it is finished. You go there and they say, oh, today we won't buy. You go to the hotel and they say, oh, the chef says we should not buy it anymore. And the guy was scratching his head because the customers say the product is good, but the outlets have blocked you. Eventually, he got the message. He was dealing with strongholds. Should he go frontal attack? No. He went into the outskirts of Accra, the semi-rural areas, and began to build his strength and build his strength and build his strength. When he came back into the city, he had built bargaining power, and now he could compete. May somebody struggling with competition that is far bigger and stronger than you get an idea about how to use concealment and encirclement to find your solution. Somebody say, that's me. Strategy is contextual. The second thing that is contextual is technology. Technology is contextual. Like Ellie rightly said, there are several technologies out there, but not all will work for you. Don't be fascinated by the complexity of technology. You must outthink, outpace, and outwit your competition. Let's all say outthink, outpace, and outwit. The competition is fast. They are strong. You must outthink them. So, how did the Greeks get to overpower the Trojans? They didn't build a wooden elephant. They understood their culture. So they designed the technology to match the culture of the people. They also knew that if the horse must be moved, it cannot be a metal horse. or a concrete horse. So the choice of material was important. Measurement. If you build the horse and it gets to the gate and the horse is too tall and cannot enter the gate, that's it. Every kind of calculation had to be done to ensure that the horse will move into the city. If you will combine strategy and technology, you must be detail-oriented. Dot the various I's and cross the various T's. The horse had to be light in order to be moved. If it was going to carry soldiers, it required critical thinking, behavioral analysis, patience, timing, and flawless execution. Technology is not just about machines. It's about using information to design solutions and systems that give you advantage. In this book, 101 Keys to Achievement and Fulfillment, we cite a story about Jack Welch and something that he did. PK's favorite business leader. So Jack Welch was competing with Europe when he was CEO of General Electric. One day he invited his competitor to come and visit him. And when the competitor sat down, he couldn't concentrate on the conversation because lying in front of Jack Welch was a book with his logo on it and his company name on it. And the title was Alternative Strategic Plan. And he was lying in front of Jack Welch, nicely designed, thick book. And the guy couldn't concentrate. So Jack Welch was asking him questions and the guy was just looking at the book. What is inside this book? So eventually, he asked him, can I have a look? But of course, that's why he had put it there, to intimidate him. So he gave the book to him, and as the guy kept reading the book or flipping through the pages, he kept nodding his head. And then he confessed that, but this strategy is better than the one we are using. How did you get it? He says, I gathered a bunch of young, smart guys and used scenario modeling and simulation to determine if we were running your company, what we will do over the next 5 to 10 years. The guy just shook his head. They are running your company better than you from simulation and technology. And you are still in the corporate head office thinking that you are running it. They have a better understanding about how your business should be run. May that be somebody's story. So, as if that were not enough, it doesn't only happen in business. In 2009, the English League Cup final, which was won by Manchester United, the greatest team in the world. All right. That was just a gift to my Liverpool friends. So the English League Cup final 2009 caught the headlines not because Manchester won, but because the goalkeeper just before the penalties was caught looking at an iPod. So they asked him, what was that? He said the goalkeeping coach gave him an iPod to show how each of the opponents will play their penalties based on simulation, observing their behavior over the years. So for this person, dive to the right. For this person, stand there, don't move. He will kick it down the middle. May somebody get ideas, understanding, insight to break through in difficult places. It can work in education, it can work in politics, it can work in sports, it can work in business. Technology is dynamic and contextual. The truth is, you have no business being ignorant about your competitors. Everything they do, you must know and understand it better than them. And technology is an enabler. The final point is on wealth creation. Wealth creation is contextual. The word leveraging in our theme simply means gaining an advantage by tapping into the strength inherent in something. When we say we are leveraging strategy and technology, it is evident that we want to have some advantage. Of course, considering our African context and our Ghanaian situation, that advantage, we chose to bring it down to world creation. But for the Greeks, the advantage they wanted was not gold. They wanted their wife back. So, your combination of strategy and technology must give you an advantage that you seek, which advantage may not mean something to someone else. So the king of Sparta fought for 10 years to recover his wife. Talking about recovering his wife, I'm sure you remember that Jacob worked for 14 years for his wife. So maybe, who knows, there may be somebody here too working for a number of years to get a wife. It is in order. Whatever it is that your objective is, a combination of strategy and technology can give you an advantage. One thing stands out, my friends. Strategy is contextual, technology is contextual, and wealth creation or advantage are also contextual. To the person looking for a job, heaven is when he finds that job or she finds that job. For the person looking for capital, all they are looking for is a minute of Reverend Support's time to convince her to give him a loan or her a loan. The person looking for technology solutions is timing early so that when they close, he or she will cross them, as they say, and ask them their questions. The person who wants to raise money through investment is looking for a menu or Kujo Adai Mensa to answer their questions about how they can raise $1 million in investment. Let me conclude by saying that as we gather today at Springboard, it is my prayer that the thousands present here and the over 1 million who will watch this broadcast across the world will find this program a springboard to the realization of their most important goals and aspirations. I don't know what you are looking for. I can't tell what it is that is on your heart, but I know one thing. If you take everything that you've learned from the 3 thematic presentations and the pointers I've shared with you, and what Dr. Otabel, who has arrived, will be sharing very shortly in the keynote address, one thing is certain. A year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you can never be the same. I want to thank very, very warmly our sponsors and partners who have invested in this program. Once again, help me appreciate EcoBank. Let's put our hands together. Let me thank MTN, the nation's biggest telecommunications network. Let me thank First Bank. Thank you so much. Let me thank Enterprise Life. Let me thank Pesol Systems. Let me thank Data Bank. Let me thank Star Assurance. Let me thank YEP Cleaning Services. Let me thank my friend Seth Yabua Ocran and Yoks for giving us our vehicles to travel. Please put your hands together for them. Let me thank Yomi Yogurt for the refreshment. Let me thank Joy 99.7 FM for supporting the broadcast. Let me thank the graphic business for supporting us in various ways. What can I say? Let me thank Voltic for the water and Dream Oval for the technology support. Let me thank you for coming, and let me pray that your dreams will become a reality. God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation truly great and strong. Thank you.